I'm back with another episode of All Hustle No Breaks. On this episode, I'll be featuring one of my favorite cars of all time, the '87 Grand National. And I'll let the owner tell you a little bit more about his car and what made him fall in love with cars in general. First of all, thank you for allowing me to do the interview with you. You'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your car?
All right, my name is Brent. This is an '87 Buick Grand National, and I've loved these things ever since college. One of my college buddies had one, took me for a ride in it once, and it just terrified me. And from that point on, I knew I had to have one. And we got this about 7 years ago. The first one we took to a shop to get some work done on it, and it got stolen.
Man.
So this is Grand National number 2, but it's actually had plenty of work done on it. It's original body, original interior, but as far as the engine goes, it's had quite a few modifications on it. It's got a larger turbo, bigger intake plenum, 60-pound injectors. The turbo is 62 millimeter, and it came with stock 42 millimeter.
Okay.
It's got a larger intercooler, and it's actually moved forward in the engine. This used to be where the intercooler was, and now the intercooler is out near the front of the bumper. So it gets more air because it's larger, and it gets a lot cooler air as well. And we haven't put it on a dyno. I'm guessing it's 550 to 600 horsepower.
Wow.
And it's plenty fast.
I believe it.
When it gets to about 30 miles an hour, it doesn't spin the tires out of the hole, but when it gets to about 30, then the tires just start boiling. And if you stay on it, they'll spin until about 55.
Wow.
Or until you lose your nerve, one or the other.
And I also noticed you had the GNX wheels on it.
I really like the look of the GNX wheels.
I do too.
It is not a GNX, obviously, but that's a really good look as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
I think that is one modification that every owner should consider.
I agree. You did any upgrades to the interior?
No, actually, the interior is stock. I've just ordered some of these new headrest covers because they're starting to get a little faded. But the interior is actually, I mean, for 87,000 miles,
Immaculate.
it's in pretty good shape. We like our cars to be driven. We're not,
To enjoy it, right?
we're not really show car, trailer queen people.
I agree.
So we drive our cars as often as we can.
That's a true car guy then. Drives a car. What made you fall in love in car in general? Just the passion for them, what made you fall in love with them?
My parents are not car people. They really didn't understand it when I bought this originally. They said, "Why you drive a truck? Why do you have a car?" And I said, "Well, I really like them." And I don't know. I grew up and I had a 911 Turbo poster in my room and a 928 poster for Porsche, and then we've got a red 928 in the other garage, and that's a fun car too. But I grew up really liking cars from this era, and I don't know. I like the speed. I like the look of them. I think the cars nowadays, for the most part, are pretty generic, and you can't tell one from the other.
I agree. I agree too.
I mean, when you look at this, you know
It's a Grand National. Exactly. Exactly. Any more future upgrades you want to do to it?
I don't think I can survive any future. I've talked to a couple people, and they said if you want to go over 600 horsepower, you have to do forged internals in the engine. And I said, so what does that mean? And he said, well, it's about $7,000 just to get forged internals.
Oh, wow.
And then you can start adding more power. And I'm like, well, I think this is fine just the way it is.
I don't blame you.
I mean, it's such a fun car, and it really is quite fast just the way it is. And I just don't see any reason to mess with perfection.
I agree.
So
I
we're
agree
going
with
to
you.
leave this one. It may get painted someday because, you know, the paint's not perfect. But then again, if the paint was perfect, we wouldn't want to drive it as much.
Point taken. You're right.
So,
You mind let us hear it?
oh, sure. I mean, the thing is, it's a V6. It's not going to rumble like the big block Corvette, but
Yeah. Okay. What were you saying?
so when you drive around town, it's just a V6 Buick. When you drop the boot, it's a rocket ship.
Got you. Got you. So what would you say if you had to pick your top 3 or top 5 favorite cars or dream cars, what would it be?
Ooh. I mean, we can do 2 categories. We can do
Okay.
dream cars that I personally can afford, and then dream cars that I wouldn't spend the money, but would really enjoy having.
Gotcha.
The Grand National's got to be one of them.
That's mine too.
We just recently bought a 72 Buick GSX, which is a tribute car. It wasn't a real GSX, and it's bright yellow, and it is gorgeous. That's got to be number 2 on the list. It's just spectacular. And there's so many. I mean, the LS6 Chevelle would be one. A 69
Metro.
Trans Am that really speaks to me as well. The 68 Corvette it's a wonderful car. It is so much fun to drive. It's just this one's numbers matching, and it's a 435 horse with the tri-power, and I get a little nervous driving it because if anything happens to it, it's a lot more difficult to fix that than to fix this.
And that-
'Cause this has aftermarket parts, and we're okay with it. But if we were going to talk cars that I can't afford, I'm not a Ferrari guy, but the Ferrari 288 GTO
Okay.
it's just mind-boggling. I mean, I think it had a 4-liter V8, but it was twin turbo, and it was for the day. It was just fantastic. And then the McLaren F1 is just, it's a crazy car.
That is. That is.
And then, you know, you might just say, well, a 911 turbo.
Okay.
Those things are just, I've always loved them, or a Porsche 959.
Okay. Got you.
So
The good choices.
I'm just a car guy, and I know you're a Mustang guy. We're thinking about getting a Mustang SVO from 85 or 86.
Okay. I actually saw one of them online.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We've always enjoyed that. My wife and I, back when we were dating in college, we took an SVO out on a test drive. I wouldn't have wanted to buy that one because we really tore it up in that thing. But we really have a connection to that car, so
Okay.
we may find one of those one day.
It makes sense to do that though.
Yeah.
Sentimental value. I understand that. Do you want to leave your Facebook page or any way we can get in contact with you or follow you, the card you have?
Well, they can contact me through you if you want.
Okay. Okay.
Just send something to you, and you can get in touch with me if they have any desire.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say to you too?
I thank you for coming out, and I'm glad you enjoy cars as much as I do, and hopefully people enjoy seeing the Grand National, because it's just a dream come true to have one.
I
And we
agree.
have enjoyed this car so much, and so many people enjoy seeing it at the car shows. We couldn't be happier.
I agree. And it's also one of my dream cars too. As you're going for a ride in the Buick Grand National. How long have you had the car?
I think this one's been about 7 years.
7 years.
Because I had the first one. When I bought it, it only ran on 103 octane racing fuel.
Got you.
And I just didn't want any part of that. It was, $16 a gallon. It was just crazy. And I knew if I ran out of gas somewhere, I was out of luck.
Yeah, right.
So I took it to the shop in Columbia who said they specialize in working on Grand Nationals. And the guy called me a couple weeks later. And I said, hey, is the car already done? And he said, no, it got stolen. And I'm like, oh, you're fooling me, right? I mean, it's done. I can come pick it up. And he said, no, it really got stolen.
Wow.
And I was like, what? I said, how often does this happen? He's like, yeah, it's never happened before.
Ironic if you joke out, huh?
Yeah. Is never ever hit the throttle when the wheel is not pointing completely straight.
Straight.
That is a bad idea.
Don't sound like a good idea.
Ready? We're gonna
Yeah.
launch first.
Hit a turbo.
This guy coming towards us, he's like, holy crap. So,
Good, hit that turbo kicking.
just we'll slow down and I'll just hit the throttle, so we won't have the power brake, so it'll just take off, and it will not spin the tires until turbo kicks in at about 30. You can't not laugh. And for those of you watching, we never exceeded 50 miles an hour.
Exactly. I just spit up the camera, that's all.
It accelerates so hard. It's the fastest car I've ever been in. There's such a nice pull for a long time too.
I enjoyed the ride.
It's as long as it doesn't scare you because you're not driving. Because I prefer to be in the driver's seat when we're doing high-speed runs. If somebody else is driving, I can understand getting a bit nervous. but this thing, it is really bad.
Appreciate you taking the time and doing the interview with me.
Oh, I was happy to.
Thank you.
All righty.